Here are a couple of things that you need to know about quoted and reported speech before you get into the more complicated aspects of quoted and reported speech. First is word order. Do you know the difference between the word order for a question versus a statement? Let's look at these two examples. The first one says, "Have they eaten?" And the second one says, "They have eaten." Now these are exactly the same, and we're using present perfect to show the difference between a question and a statement. If you notice, in the question, your auxiliary comes first and your subject comes second. In your statement, your subject comes first and your auxiliary comes second. Let's look at the different pieces. Have is your auxiliary or your helping verb. They is your subject, and eaten is your main verb in past participle form. In your statement, they is your subject, have is your auxiliary, and eaten is your main verb in past participle form. If you notice, your subject and auxiliary switch places to form a simple yes or no question. I know what you're thinking. What about WH questions? Well, let's take a look at the yes or no question. If we start with our statement, they have eaten, all we have to do is very simply switch our auxiliary and our subject. By switching our subject and our auxiliary, we have a yes or no question. Now, what if we want to make a WH question? Well, that's really easy. All you have to do is put a WH right in front of the whole question. So, for example, we could say, what? And then we would simply copy our yes or no question to complete the rest of our WH question. So there you have a statement, they have eaten, and then we change it. Have they eaten, yes or no question, and then create a WH question. We simply copy have they eaten, and we put a WH right in front. What have they eaten? Simple, right? Now I bet that you're thinking, what does this have to do with quoted and reported speech? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me show you. Let's look at these examples of yes or no questions in reported speech. Quoted speech. So let's look at the first example. We asked her, are you tired? Are you tired? So, are you tired? We have a verb, we have a subject, and we've got a main verb. Or we've got an adjective here. Right? Is this yours? Is a verb, this is a subject, and yours is a pronoun. Could you wait? Could is an auxiliary, you is a subject, wait is a verb. Should we buy this? Should is an auxiliary, we is a subject, buy is a verb. Now, an auxiliary is just a fancy word for saying a helping verb. An auxiliary is technically a type of verb. So if you take a look at everything here, it's all following the same pattern. Remember I said languages follow patterns. So we have verb, subject, verb, subject, verb, subject, verb, and you guessed it, subject. Okay, so no matter what the question is, it always starts with an auxiliary or it starts with a verb. Let's take a look at the answers to these if we change them into reported speech. So what I want you to do is try to figure out what is the pattern here. Remember, I said languages follow patterns. It's not just random stuff. Now, if I draw a pattern like this, if I drew a pattern like this and I said, what's wrong with this pattern here, you would be able to find it, right? Triangle, square, circle, triangle, square, circle, triangle, triangle, and that's wrong. There's not supposed to be a triangle. Triangle, square, circle. That works. Well, language is doing the exact same thing here. We're comparing, you found out this was the pattern, and then you found out that it repeated, right? Triangle again, square again, circle again, triangle again, right? Square, oh, that's what's wrong here. And you're going to do the same thing here. So you're going to compare the different pieces to see what's the same and what's different. You're going to figure out what's happening here. So let's take a look. We have if. And then what comes next? We have she, that, he, and they. She is a subject. That is a subject. He is a subject. They is a subject. And then we have was. We have could, wait, and should, buy. So here we have a verb. Here we have a verb. Could wait. We have an auxiliary and a verb. And should buy, auxiliary, and verb. And then we have the rest of our sentence. Okay, so what do we see here that's the same? Well, we've got if in every one of these sentences. We've got a subject in each sentence. Some of them we have an auxiliary, and then we have a verb. So it looks to me like we can figure out our pattern here. Before we do that, let's go back to what we talked about at the beginning of this presentation, which was word order. Now, what do you remember about word order? Hopefully you remember something, right? Well, what is the word order if we have a statement? Right? I gave you guys the example, they have eaten. So our word order is subject, auxiliary, verb, right? Right. Oh yes, I remember. Now, what if I want to make a yes or no question? Well, all I have to do is cross these over. Have they eaten? Yes, that's right. Easy, see? Now, let's take this and apply it to the examples that we're working with quoted and reported speech. It's not that hard. Trust me. We'll do it step by step. But we're going to need a bigger cloud. Got your thinking hat on? Good, let's figure this out. So the first question says, they asked her, are you tired? Well, before we start changing and moving things around, you have to do what you've already learned to do from chapter 26, and that is change your verb tenses, your pronouns, and your time. So are is going to change to, let's change our subject first. You is going to change to she, right? Now are is going to become simple past. So should we use she were, or should we use she was? Yeah, was is what's correct here. Okay, was she tired? That makes sense. She and was go together. Now that we've taken care of our changes, let's start putting it in the correct order. Let's get rid of our comma. our quotation marks, our question mark. And if we remember correctly, our sentence started with if. And then we had a subject. And then we had a verb. And then the rest of our sentence. So if you see here, the pattern is repeating. We've got an auxiliary and a subject, or a verb and a subject, and they are switching places. For a question, we follow verb, subject, but for a statement, we follow subject, verb. I know, exciting, isn't it? Sorry, I got a little too excited. Let's look at another example. So let's do our changes first, okay? So we have is going to change to was, and this is going to change to that. Now we've got yours here, and we've got them. He asked them, is this yours? So them, we're going to change that. No. Theirs. You got it? Now let's rewrite our sentence using if. He asked them. What comes next? If. Now let's change places. So that is our subject, so it's going to come first. If, that, and then our verb is going to come next. Was, and then theirs. He asked them if that was theirs. Ta-da! Not bad, not bad. Let's do another one. I asked him, could you wait for me? Do you know what to do first? Thinking about it? Well, the first thing that you're supposed to do is change your pieces of your sentence. Let's get rid of all this punctuation. All right, so could. Could is going to change to no change. So I asked him, you is going to change to he. And could you wait for me? Me is going to change to no change. So now let's put this back in the right order. I bet you know what to do. So we're going to start with I asked him. What comes next is if. I asked him if. Then we're going to switch places. We've got our auxiliary here, and we've got our subject here. Subject comes first. He. Auxiliary comes next. Could. Wait. For. Me. Piece of cake, right? Yes, an easy piece of grammar cake. Yum, yum. Let's do some more practice, if you're still watching this. Okay, so we asked them, is it open tomorrow? So let's get rid of our punctuation here. And we're going to add if. We asked them if. It is going to move to the front. It is going to change to was open, and tomorrow is going to change to the next day. Period. We asked them if it was open the next day. Let's look at this next example. I asked her, do you like coffee? Let's start by getting rid of this punctuation. So now we've identified the three pieces that need to be changed. Do you like coffee? So this is simple present and it's using do, and if we change do to simple past, it looks like did. But then we have did like, and we can't use did like in a statement. So instead of putting simple past on do, we're going to get rid of do completely, and we're going to change like from simple present to liked, which is simple past. And then you is going to become she. So our answer is going to look like this. If she liked coffee, period. All right, I'm going to give you a set of questions on the next slide, and then you need to pause the video, take some time to think about the answers, and then continue the video to find the answers. We asked them, will you join us tomorrow? She asked him, did you pick up the mail yesterday? And he asked us, can you help me? They asked us, have you seen this movie? So you've got 4 quoted questions, and you need to change the verb tenses and the pronouns and the time, and then you need to reorder your words into statement word order and change these into reported questions. Remember, your quoted question is going to look like this. It's going to have an auxiliary of some kind or a main verb, and then it's going to be followed by a subject and the main verb. But your reported question is going to look like this. It's going to start with if, and then it's going to have the subject. Sometimes it will have an auxiliary, and then it's going to have the main verb. So just remember to use statement word order when you're writing your reporting questions. Okay, so here are the answers. In case you've been wondering, the sound on your computer has not been broken for the last 10 minutes. It just didn't have anyone talking in the video. So, I hope for you that was a piece of cake. And you have a little bit of homework, and hopefully with that practice, you'll get changing quoted questions into reported questions. Thanks for watching. My little assistant says thanks for watching too.